Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu of Life podcast. This is episode number 94.
Oh, hey, yo, guys, what's going on? That caught me off guard because I was like, I didn't know if you were going to remember what episode because I didn't. We
I did
usually
my
check
homework,
before
buddy.
we do it. We're like, let me check real
I
quick what
checked.
episode we're on. You
I
checked.
checked. Don't you worry. Don't
Well,
you
good,
you
good. Because I was
you
like,
checking the
we're
sound?
gonna fix this in post.
You check the sound, I check the numbers. That's what I do.
Nice. There you go. There you go. I like it. How have you been, my brother? How were your holidays?
It was good, man. It was
Good.
pretty uneventful. We went up to Dallas, like I said, yesterday till today. I think a total of a 30-hour trip, that is a good amount of time. You get everything done, get to see everyone, and leave the audience wanting more. I think that's a good.
That's what you always want to do.
Yeah, I think
that's what great entertainers do, and great salesmen.
I'd rather understay than overstay.
There you go.
I'd always rather leave people being like, "Oh, you're leaving already," and it's like, "Yep." I'd rather leave
because
early.
You want people to be happy when they see you.
Yes.
Like, not Carter again.
Yeah.
He's gonna try to move in with us.
I know.
He never
My
leaves.
poor wife.
Yeah, for
true.
sure. Well, awesome,
Yeah.
man. I'm glad that your holidays were well. Mine were uneventful too, but that's by design. We like it that way now.
Yeah.
And so it was very, very good. Everything's going good, my brother, on my end.
It.
Yeah, I was happy that we weren't, because everything, you're doing some traveling for the holidays and for business, and we had to kind of restructure our schedule a little bit. So we were supposed to podcast tomorrow.
Yeah.
Super happy when I got your text. And we're like, man, I'm coming home early. Let's knock it out. I was like, all right. I like it. I like it.
Sooner is better.
The sooner, the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about this week and going back to a Dan Pena quote, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And man, that is something that I really harp on in the house with my kid. And just because I believe that it is so true, I believe that there's probably like science behind it. You know what I mean? But I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about what we actually mean by that, or it's not my line, right? Like Dan Pena is the guy that says it, but what do I believe he means by that? And I think kind of dissecting it and having a good understanding of that, right? So basically he says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And basically what that means is that you're probably going to be like the people that you spend the majority of your time with, right? So if the majority of people that you're spending time with are like these really good mechanics, you may not become a mechanic, but you're probably going to learn a lot about cars hanging out with them, right? If the majority of of the people that you're hanging out with are bankers, you may not become a banker, but you're probably going to learn about banking. You're going to learn a little bit more about numbers. And on the flip side of that, if the majority of the people that you're hanging out with are like bank robbers, right?
Yeah.
You may not be a bank robber, but you're probably gonna be involved, or you see a lot of shady stuff going on, illegal stuff.
You're gonna learn how to drive a car fast. I know that.
And we all know which out of the two is the most shady, right? And it's the banker.
Yes.
That's a bad joke. That's a bad joke, but so yes, you are you're going to be like the people that you spend the majority of your time with, right? So what does that mean? It means that you should be, what Dan Pena means by that is that you should find out what it is you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
And then surround yourself with people that have accomplished it or are on their way to accomplish that, right? So if you want to be a billionaire, start hanging out with a lot of billionaires. You may not be a billionaire, but I think opportunity is going to open up for you to, you're probably going to earn a lot more money than you ever have in your life, right? But I think a lot of people hear that, and I know when I first heard it, I was kind of like, well, not all my friends are on the same path that I'm on, right? So what exactly does this mean? And one of the things that I wanted to discuss is that I think you want to find people that have accomplished what you want to accomplish or are on the way of accomplishing what you want to accomplish. But I think that there's something that you have to um, understand about those people. In other words, that's not the priority. Their
Yeah.
success shouldn't be the priority of you becoming
Yeah.
spending a great deal of time with them. So
Yeah.
I guess the first thing that you want to do is you want to define what a friend is first and foremost. And I was thinking about this the other day because I I think so many people like for the other day my son went to a birthday party. No, it wasn't it was a get together. There were some other kids there, and one of the girls maybe sees him. She's the daughter of one of our friends, and
Mm,
she sees Yusuf, and she maybe sees Yusuf like once a year, twice a year.
mm.
And as soon as she sees him, she's like, my best friend. And she comes and she
Yeah.
gives him this hug, right? Like
Yeah.
the way children just throw away throw around the term best friend, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's a best
Yeah.
friend. And I think as
Yeah.
adults, we do that a lot as well.
Oh yeah.
And we're just like, oh yeah, I know such and such.
Yeah.
That's, that's my friend.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, so this is how I defined a friend. And I actually had to write it down and really think about it, right?
Mm.
Um, so for me, a friend is someone that I spend personal time with, right? Because and what I mean by personal time is outside of outside of work and even outside of training, right?
Yeah.
Like the only time I see you is for training, and it's just coincidence that you train at the same place I train. That doesn't necessarily like there's guys that I train with, and I think they're great guys. But I wouldn't say that we're friends because outside of seeing
Yeah.
them on the mat, like I don't even have their number. They don't have my number.
Yeah.
We really don't communicate. You know what I mean? And they're good
Mhm.
people, and I hope that I have close friendships with a lot more of the people that I train with. But it's just the reality of life, right? There's a limited amount of
Yeah.
time, and so people that I make an effort like to spend time with, right? If I'm calling you and saying, "Hey, want to get together for coffee? Hey, want to
Yeah.
get together and talk about this book." That's personal time. That's the most valuable thing a human being has. You
Mhm.
reserve it for your family, and if it's not for family, then it's your friends, right? And
Yeah.
so there's this different status. The second thing is
Yeah.
that you got to that the amount of trust that you give this person, right? And
Yeah.
I had one of my good friends tell me one time, he's like, it's easy how I define a friend. I basically ask myself, can I give that person the key? And he may be a little extreme, but he goes, I basically ask, can I give that person the key to my house? And if the
Yeah.
answer is no, I like the guy, he's an acquaintance. If the answer
Yeah.
is yes, he's my friend, right? So it's
That's a good litmus test. Yeah, I
yeah,
like that.
yeah, and literally, this guy, he maybe has, he can count his friends on both of his hands, and nothing more than that, right? His circle is super small, and he keeps it that way purposely, and I
Yeah.
value that because when you're his friend, I mean, you feel like, oh man, he treats me special, like.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
that type of guy. He holds his friends at a different status, and you can feel the
Yeah.
difference, right? Like everybody's not a friend. Um, and then uh, one of the other pieces of that puzzle is, do you feel comfortable asking that person for help? Like that
Mm,
to me
mm.
defines a friend. If I feel uncomfortable, like if I get myself in a jam and I feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable going to that person, then
Yeah.
now you're probably not a friend, right? Like you should feel comfortable being able to go to that person and asking them for help. And then,
Yeah.
one of the last things I thought about, and I almost it was just before we started the podcast,
Mm.
I came up with this one, and I was like, this is so huge. Do they make you feel good about yourself? And do they bring
Oh,
the best out of
nice.
you? Right?
Yeah, I like
Because
that. Yeah.
we live in a world where we think people are our friends, but man, they want to see our demise a lot of times. Man,
Yeah.
jealousy is a real
Yeah.
thing. It really is.
Yeah.
And you got to eliminate, we've talked about that before, those negative people in your lives
Yeah.
that are always
Yeah.
like, do you really? I mean, you're setting such huge goals. That's such an it's an indirect
Yeah.
telling you of a way of telling you
Yeah.
you can't do it, or you're dreaming too
Yeah.
big. Like
Yeah.
you want to surround yourself with people who are maybe they're not on the same path as you, but if they make you feel good about yourself and they support you in the things that you want to accomplish,
Yeah.
that is so valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the first thing is defining what a friend is, I think. And once you
Yeah.
define what a friend is for you, then the second thing is don't look to see. So in this example, I'm going to talk about financial success. Or actually, you know what? Let's talk about jujitsu. Let's say I want to be a jujitsu world champion.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm gonna show me your friends, and I'll show you your future, right? If I spend, so a lot of people are gonna take that to mean, well, if I spend a bunch of time with jujitsu champions, I will most likely become better at jujitsu, or get closer to my goal of becoming a jujitsu champion. And I would agree
Yeah.
with that. I would agree.
Yeah.
It's you have a higher probability of accomplishing your goal than if you just hung out with a bunch of potheads, right? Like you're not getting any closer to your goal of becoming a jiu-jitsu champion. Like you talk about it, like I want to be a
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu world champion, but all my
Yeah.
friends are potheads and none of them even roll. And then,
Yeah.
but now you have this other guy and all he does is spend time with guys who are on this path of wanting to be
Yeah.
the best at jiu-jitsu in the world, right?
Yeah.
Your probability of
Yeah.
success, I think, goes up in
Yep.
accomplishing that goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that that's how you determine you have to determine first and foremost if they are people you want to be friends with, right?
Yes. Yes. I like
So
that. That's a great way of looking at it. Very
that's
empowering.
and yes, and so um, I think so don't look at whether or not. So again, in this example of being a jiu-jitsu world champion, don't look at whether or not they're good at jiu-jitsu first. That's secondary. The first thing is, are they morally and ethically good people? And I'll tell you why. If I just say that I'm going to surround, so in my case, right, like I want to be more financially successful, right? So if I just surround myself with people who are financially successful and I don't look at whether or not they have character, are they moral in their actions, are they ethical in their actions? Well, then
Yeah.
if they're not any of those things, if they're not moral, if they're not ethical, if they're liars, if they have no character, well, again, going back to Dan Pena's quote, you show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I'm going to
Yeah.
become like them. I'm going to
Yeah.
lose my morals. I'm going to lose my ethics. I'm going to probably
Yep.
lie, cheat, and deceive people in order to climb that ladder because I don't know how they climbed it. I think first you have to look at whether or not that person is a moral and ethical person. And
Mm.
that is different for different people. What people's morals are and ethics are is different from maybe what my morals and ethics are, but they have to fall in line with what you're morally and ethically willing to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, then after you get the morals and ethics out of the way, then you develop that relationship, right? Like, do you want to spend personal time with them outside
Yeah.
of training? Do you
Yeah.
trust them? Would you be willing to give them the key to your house, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
feel comfortable if you were in a jam calling them and saying, "Hey, John, man, I got a flat tire. Can you come out here and help me change it?"
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't feel comfortable asking you to help me change a tire, then we're probably not that close. And then do they make you feel good about yourself? Do they inspire you? Do they bring out the positive? Then the last thing you look at is, are they on the path, or have they already accomplished what I want to accomplish? If they
Yes.
meet those three things, then you should work very, very hard to develop a strong relationship with that person and
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with more people like that. Show me your friends and I'll show you your
Yep.
future. But one of the questions that I think a lot of people have is, does that mean, so I'll give you an example. So let's say you and I are alike, so it's a bad example. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say you were just we were training partners,
Mm-hmm.
and but we hung out a lot outside of training. And let's say
Yeah.
you were a gardener.
Okay.
You're a gardener. And I came to you one day and I said, "Hey, uh, Carter, I want to be, I want to build this business over here. I want to start, I want to create a real estate empire, and I want to be like financially indestructible, as Grant Cardone would
Yeah.
say, right? I want to,
Yeah.
I want to get to
Yeah.
$10 million in net worth and be financially
Yeah.
indestructible."
Yeah.
And you're like, man, like, so you're a good guy and you're a good friend and you're the type of person that's like, you meet all of those things that I've talked about. Do I,
Yeah.
I can trust you, all of those things, right? Does that mean that because you're not on the same path that I'm on, that I should unfriend you and just stop spending time with you? And
Right.
that's a question that I think a lot of people have when they hear "show me your friends and I'll show you your future." I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you right now the answer for me. And I thought about this a lot. I was like, man, does that mean I have to get like new friends? Because I have friends that really sincerely do not care. I have family that doesn't care about being like financially successful. They don't care about
Yeah.
running a business and having a
Yeah.
successful business. They don't
Hmm.
that's not what moves them. They're not passionate about that. So does that
Yeah.
mean that I disconnect? And the answer to that question is no. And the reason why is for the four reasons that I decided like who a friend is, right? Do you trust them? Do you feel comfortable asking them for help? But the most
Yeah.
important thing, Carter, the reason you don't unfriend those people is because do they make you feel good about yourself? That is the most
Hmm.
important thing for me, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that makes me feel good about who I am and they support me in my journey, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if we're on a different path. As long as you support me in my journey, I feel like I can support you in yours.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that matters. But
Yeah.
if you want, think about what it is you want to accomplish in life. Then figure out who are some people that have already accomplished it or on their way to accomplishing that.
Hmm.
Accomplishing that. Then figure out are they moral people? Are they good people? Do they have character? Are they people that I would like to be like? Right?
Yeah.
And then develop that relationship where you have these four things, where you spend time with them, where you have an
Hmm.
enormous amount of trust, where you feel comfortable asking them for help. And, you know, eventually during that course of that relationship, ask yourself, okay, we've been friends for, we've known each other for a year. Do they make me feel good about myself? Does Carter bring the best out of me when I'm around him, or does he bring me
Yeah.
down? And if the answer to that
Yeah.
question is yes, man, you are already rich. Because true
Yeah.
wealth is when you own things that money cannot buy, right? When you have those things we consider, if I had the original Mona Lisa, right? Like they consider that priceless. That would make me wealthy. So with that line of thinking, anything that I possess that is priceless, that money cannot buy, then I'm already wealthy, right? So if
Yeah.
I have a true friend, money cannot buy that. No money can buy
Yeah.
that. If I have true love,
Yeah.
money I don't care if you're a millionaire. If a woman doesn't love you, if a man doesn't love you, they're never going to love you. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money you have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um that's a priceless thing to have a friend. So never disconnect with a true friend. With that being said, if you can find some true friends that are on the same path that you are on, man, that is just a plus, and that is a step in
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yep. I
What
agree.
are your but I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because
Yeah.
um I think there's some people out there um that I don't know, maybe they would argue the opposite of that. They're like, "No, I'm doing
Yeah.
something, completely different and all my friends are kind of doing that." And I've never, so what's your take on this whole show me your friends and I'll show you your future?
I think it's good advice, and it's something that Pena said. A lot of people say that, uh,
Yeah.
a variation of that saying, and it's also about categorizing different parts of your life. So you can have your jujitsu friends that are great guys, that are great training partners, that are the people you want to train with. They may not be people you want to do business with. They may not be people that you have that connection with in addition to jiu-jitsu, but they should still be all those four things you said. I really like that idea, and the idea, making you feel good about yourself. Maybe the substitution in jiu-jitsu terms would be, um, they're a good training partner. They're someone you enjoy training with and they make you better. Uh, some of the good training partners are probably not going to make you feel good about yourself. Um, Jeff and people
True.
like that always
Yeah.
make me feel quite chumpy. But I mean, like, but it needs all that. You need the good training partners in jiu-jitsu. And then I think it's with other parts of your life, you need that same training partner mentality, but it could be for business. It may not be any of the same people, but you still need those same qualities. So I think anything that you are looking to improve upon in life, you need that sort of powerful circle. It may not be always the same circle, but I think the litmus test that I would use, it's similar to what you're saying, and maybe in addition to what you're saying, I look at it as, is this my type of guy? Is this somebody that I would want to hang out with and I feel comfortable with? And we have enough in common besides the business goal in order to form a deeper friendship. And so, for me, you were texting the other night about you were hanging out with these people and they were talking about like mountain biking or something like that. And mountain biking's cool, but I've never mountain biked. I probably never will. And if I'm hanging out with guys that all do business together and they all go mountain biking together and they have this bond, they're probably not the right guys for me. Or I met a pretty successful real estate guy who one of the first things we were talking, oh, what'd you do this weekend? And I remember there was some good fights that weekend. I don't remember who fought, but there was some really good fights. I'm like, well, what'd you do? He's like, oh, I watched the US Open. I'm like, he's like, yeah, it's a golf tournament. I was watching that all weekend. I'm like, I like this guy, but we're never going to be particularly good friends, even though I respect him and he does great work and I'm in a business deal with him, but it's not the same thing, because if your idea of a weekend is like, I'm going to watch golf all weekend, which we're never going to have that same connection. So I think it's important to find people where it's kind of above and beyond. And I was just telling you, I joined another mentorship group like 2 days ago. And the main reason I joined it was the guy who started the group. As soon as I saw this guy and saw him talk and kind of looked at his body language and I'm like, this guy and I have a lot in common. We've gone through a lot of the same stuff business-wise. We've both been in business for a long time. We both have a lot of, renovation, fix and flip, rental, real estate experience. And just the way he talked and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, this is my kind of guy. We got on the phone. It was like we were just back and forth, ideas, this, that. I'm like, I'm doing this because I like this guy. I feel like we have a lot in common. We have very similar goals in terms of the short-term rental stuff. And he seems to have a lot of good knowledge on different ways of sort of speeding up the process and just different things. And I'm like, this is my kind of guy. Now, if it had been the same knowledge, but it was a guy who just seemed just not my kind of guy, I don't think I would have joined the group. I might watch and see the material they have, but I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to just kind of keep doing it myself. But when it's somebody that I feel like you connect with above and beyond just the simple financial goal, those are the relationships to really, really pursue. And I think that's important for whatever you're doing. Right now I'm working on building up relationships with real estate brokers in different places. And the ones where I talk to them, I'm like, okay, I like the way this guy responds. And I have my own particular things. It's like, to me, if I'm emailing somebody and they're not emailing me back, especially when it's the promise of making us both money, I quickly am like, okay, I got to move on. I got to find somebody who's more responsive, who's more excited about the possibility of working together. And when I find that person, it's like, okay, this is someone I can connect with. And then when talking to the person, their style of talk, their way, do I feel like they're selling me? I have sort of all these different things that are going on in my head where it's really ultimately, do I feel comfortable with this person? And do I like this person? Because I guess a lot of people are always like, oh, it's just business and it doesn't have to. I don't believe that.
Let me ask you a question,
business always is deeper.
Carter. So let's say that you're 22 years old and your best buddies are a group of construction workers, and you're a construction worker. You're a construction guy. And you're doing this for 5 years, and you're having great times, man. You know, these guys are like family to you, and they're so good to you. They're really good friends. They do anything for you. They take a bullet for you. But one day you get your hands on a book, and the book is I don't know, what is it here? What's Kiyosaki's book?
So you got Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Although this sounds like the plot of Good Will Hunting. I got to be honest with you here.
That's right. We're going to come up with our own little screenplay here.
Yeah.
And you come up with you find this book and you read the book and it's like, boom, I'm on a different path now, right? Like this is what I want to do. I don't want to be a construction guy anymore. I want to start my own business. I want to start investing in real estate. I want to become financially indestructible.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about show me your friends and I'll show you your future, what do you say to the guy who his best friends are construction workers and they love them, but they're not on the same, they're not going to walk that path. They're not going to pull you down, right? They're all for it. Like if the guy's name is Johnny, he's like, Johnny, you read that book. That's great. We support you, my brother. I hope that you become financially successful, and I hope your business, and we'll support you in that. But we like doing construction work. We're going to stay doing construction work. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you disconnect with those friends and find a whole new group of friends that are on the same path, or? What's your advice? Because there's only so much time in the day.
There's only so much time. Yeah, I think if they're true friends, they will respect the fact that you're on a different path. I mean, and that's
And they'll
again
let you
going back
go.
to good. Okay, going back to Good Will Hunting again. I mean, Ben Affleck wanted Matt Damon to go pursue greatness because he was capable of it, and when he finally did, he was happy. And I think a true friend wants you to succeed and wants you to be happy. So if you realize
I love it.
doing this life is never going to make me feel truly fulfilled or truly happy, if they're true friends, they will support that. If they're not, now they've shown you their true colors, which is some people like you to be a certain level where they feel comfortable. But if you start asking questions and start trying to get to the next level, that makes them feel uncomfortable because they start looking at themselves more.
I love
So
it.
if you have people that make you feel comfortable in your own comfort zone, and then you see one person pushing their comfort zone, that's either going to make the other people realize maybe I could do more, or they don't want to think about that, so they start trying to pull you down. So it's a good litmus test to see whether they are really good friends. And you can also make a lot of money owning a construction company, and that's a good way to get in real estate. I mean, so don't
And
give up on the real estate
kind of
dreams.
a personal question on the podcast.
Yeah,
Have you ever, because you weren't always going to be into business and real estate and stuff like that. That's not how your path
correct.
started,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Have you had any friends that you kind of you split ways, not in a bad way,
Yes.
but you're just like,
Yeah.
man, I'm on a
Oh yeah.
different path now.
Yeah. I've got a total example of that. So when I was about 30, I was working at Disney and working in the film business. And I kind of quickly realized that I didn't want to be making the kind of movies that were relatively easy to get made. And the stuff I wanted to make, no one wanted to make. So I'm like, okay, you need something, and it's either a certain kind of cachet or you need money. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather just go make the money. I wanted more autonomy. I wanted more control because getting a film made is about so many things that are out of your control. And I had a friend who I worked with, and we had a lot of similar ideas on films, and we showed each other. We'd both written a bunch of stuff that we showed each other, and we always would talk about movies, and we were sort of on that path. And then one day, a guy that we knew was really into real estate. We had lunch with him, and he was talking about real estate, and he's like talking about Robert Kiyosaki, who I'd never heard of. And he's like, "Yeah, I've got all these books on CD. You should listen to them." And he made, I don't know if it was Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it was one of Kiyosaki's books, and he put it on a little CD thing. He made two copies, one for me and one for this guy Brian. And I had sometimes it would take me about an hour and a half to get home. I had a pretty long commute. I was living in Los Angeles. So I popped that CD in the first day, and as soon as I heard Kiyosaki talking about the type of life that he wanted to design and the idea of like true financial freedom and the idea of living life on your own terms, it was like I felt like he was talking directly to me and directly to my situation in a way that I just never resonated with something before, because it didn't feel like self-help. It just felt like this is the way to live. This guy, Brian, that I work with, literally never even opened up the CD. He still, as far as I know, works in the film business. And I saw him a couple times over the last 10 years or so, but I really haven't communicated with him at all in a long time. He stayed on the path of doing that because that's what he liked. And for me, it was like as soon as I started listening to that stuff, I was like, I'm getting out of this business. I started reading like mad. I started listening to stuff all the time. I started looking for property all over the country. It completely changed my life. It changed the course of my life. But literally the same information was put on two desks. And for one, it changed my life. And for this other guy, it's literally like it never happened. He was just completely uninterested. But he was never rude about it. He was never disrespectful or anything like that. It just wasn't for him. And so because the core of the friendship, which I think a lot of friendships are what you have in common, when we had less and less in common, the friendship faded away. So,
That's
so yeah,
it.
no, it was a
I
pivotal
love that,
moment.
man.
It was
That's
so
great.
funny that yeah. So yeah, I do.
Well, thank you, my brother, for sharing that story
Yeah,
with us, and
yeah,
and you kind of uh hit at some points. It's exactly what I was trying to get at, but I was kind of being indirect about it, and you were just kind of straightforward about it. You know that you're right. I mean, I love the idea that what brings you together are the things that you have common interest in, and once you sort of
Yeah.
when somebody else develops a different interest, I think that that
Yeah.
relationship starts not to fall apart. Falling apart makes it seem like you're leaving terms leaving on bad terms, and that's not necessarily the case. It just
Yeah.
means you're
Yeah.
going down a different path, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's something that I
Friendships.
struggle
Friendships
with,
can.
right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like a sense of loyalty. um
Yeah.
uh, but at the so it's good to hear your personal examples of how, and what I really loved is that's so true, that if it's a good test to see where their heart really is, because
Yes.
if
Yes.
if you think these people are your friends and you approach them and you say, hey guys, I want to walk this different path now, um
Yeah.
and you're going to find out really where their heart's at, because they're either going to say, man, you're stupid, why don't you just stay here with
Yeah.
us, we got a good thing going on,
Yep.
or are they going to say,
Yeah.
man, hey, I wish you the best of luck, anything I can do to help you, if I can help you, I will.
Mhm.
Go out there and do it, and spread your wings,
Yeah.
man. That is true. When you talk about loyalty, are they loyal to you? If they're loyal to you, they will support you as you take a different turn in your life. I think that's great.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, there's reality that, there's some people where you just kind of outgrow each other for different ways. I mean, there's a lot of people, even because I've lived in Austin two different times. The first time was about 5 years. This is the second time is now almost exactly 6 years. And my life and the people I'm friends with now are very different than before. I mean, there's some crossover. I mean, Jeff and Kevin and people like that, but there's a lot of people that I used to hang out with all the time before that I literally never see, or see maybe once a year, once every 2 years. And a lot of that was because when I first moved here, I was single and, I used to drink. And these are guys that we'd go train jujitsu, then we'd go downtown and, all that kind of thing. And once that part of my life changed, um, we maybe just didn't have enough in common anymore to hang out with. And I started hanging out with all married people because I'm married, and they kept hanging out with single people. And it's like, there's no animosity. And there's still great guys. And I still really have great fond memories of our times hanging out, but we just don't have enough in common anymore. Even though we still have jujitsu for the most part. I mean, they're all still do jujitsu and stuff like that, but it's not enough the way it was at a certain time in life. And I think that just happens, and there's nothing wrong with it, you
There's
know?
nothing wrong with it. And that's where I was
Yeah.
kind of getting to, because I think some people they think about that, right? Show me your friends and I'll show you your future, and they stay up at night thinking, man, I want something more. I want something different. Not necessarily
Yeah.
something better, just something different, right?
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
never maybe go after it because they feel a sense of loyalty to their old group. But
Yeah.
I like the idea that, yeah, they'll, if they're really your friends, they're going to support you. If they're not,
Hmm.
then you're not losing anything anyway, right? And
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
thing. Fear is something that always holds people back from accomplishing their dreams, and I think that's a fear, right? A fear
Yeah.
of that you're being unloyal, that you're
Yeah.
forgetting where you came from, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't and I
Yeah.
don't and I don't think that's the case in this
I don't
situation.
either.
So yeah, right. So anyone that's listening to this, don't be afraid to do something different, even if the friends that you have now are not with it. You
Yeah.
should. Life's too
Yeah.
short. Life's too short.
I agree. I agree. Yep. There we go.
94 in the books. To check out this
Done.
episode and our past episodes, go to the jujitsuoflife.com. Also, be sure to go to Apple iTunes, leave us some awesome reviews. And as always, check out roblesgi.com. No, 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 no. It's robles.com. We changed that.
Roguelist.com.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
That's right. I knew that.
robles.com. Makers of the world's finest custom jiu-jitsu apparel. And as always, from myself and Carter, we wish you guys nothing but the best, both on and off the mat. Have a great week, guys, and take care.
Thank you.